One ESPN expert thinks that Omarion Hampton will be Rookie of the Year in 2025, which would take a special season, but if he could do it, it would make the Chargers contenders in the AFC West.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Droegemeier, and we've been covering the Chargers together now for 9 seasons, but this is our 7th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us your first listen. To make sure that you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcasts from. David, what do we got today?
Daniel, if Omarion Hampton wants to win Rookie of the Year, he is going to not only have success running the football, but he's going to have to really be catching the football at a high clip as well. It's going to take a very complete season to be able to do that. And Justin Herbert or Kyler Murray, who out of those two is more likely to make it and win their first playoff game? I am definitely going with Justin Herbert, and there's plenty of reasons why. And Daiyan Henley had a fantastic sophomore season, and he absolutely is on the verge of stardom.
Absolutely, and I think there's one key part of his game that if he improves, he could leap into that all-pro status. But we do have a lot to get into today. Thank you to the everydayers as always, and we wanted to talk about an article done by ESPN's Benjamin Solak, former Locked On podcast host, I should say as well. Super cool to see what he's doing now. But he did 100 things to know with the football season being 100 days away, and there are so many great nuggets in there. But one of them was a bold prediction that he made about Chargers rookie Omarion Hampton, which was a little surprising. He says, Omarion Hampton will win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think he will quickly outtouch Najee Harris, and I think the Chargers want to go back to a more run-heavy approach after turning pass-heavy out of necessity late last season. He'll outproduce fellow first-rounder Ashton Jeanty, too. I see a 1,200-yard rushing season incoming. David, not a lot of people are willing to put their names on this right now, which I think gives more credit to Benjamin Solak. But man, it seems crazy to think that even with Ashton Jeanty in his own division, that Omarion Hampton could put this kind of season together.
My goodness, that would be really fun to watch if Omarion Hampton was able to put this type of season together, because it very much would have to be an all-encompassing attack from Omarion Hampton. Not only would he have to really, go crazy in both avenues, but he would have to do it from the very beginning. I think to be able to put together a stat line that it would require to be able to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, he would have to be the number one guy from the jump and get a ton more carries than Najee Harris.
Yeah, and I think that is kind of the biggest part for me that would be the hardest kind of hurdle to overcome, is just because part of the reason I find it hard to believe that he wins it is just because I don't know if he's going to get the amount of touches that it would take to put up the numbers he would need to win that award. I do think, however, there are certain things that are playing in his favor. Most importantly, I would say, it was not a good quarterback class. A good quarterback will beat a great position player every day of the week when it comes to the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. I mean, ask Justin Jefferson, who put up 1,400 yards in Justin Herbert's rookie season. Ask Brock Bowers, who was historic last year and lost out to Jaden Daniels, who was also great. But still, even though I think Cam Ward could be good, it's not a great team. It's not a good team.
No.
So I think it could be hard for him to kind of put together a season like we've seen from C.J. Stroud and Jaden Daniels and some other recent winners. But no running back has won this award since 2018. That's the other thing standing in the way. It's been basically all quarterbacks and wide receivers. And when you're looking at least since 2018, guys like Garrett Wilson have done it, right? But mostly it's been quarterbacks that have won this award. So is Tyler Shuck going to be good enough to win it? Is Jackson Dart going to be able to take that starting job? I don't know, but I think it also helps for the case of Omarion Hampton that only one receiver was taken in the top 10, and that was Teteroa McMillan, only 2 in the top 20 in this draft class. But there will be 2 tight ends that would make a strong case for it potentially with Tyler Warren and Coulson Loveland. He will have to be that guy right away, so I think that is the thing. Maybe Solak is projecting something that we don't necessarily think yet, which is just he is going to run away with the carries, and it won't be a backfield by committee with Najee Harris, who they signed. But
Yeah.
speaking of which, David, it would have to be a crazy season. Like I said, the last one was Saquon Barkley in 2018. Before that's Alvin Kamara in 2017. Before that, Todd Gurley. And I think it was a great point that you made about not only do you have to be able to run the football effectively and put up 1,000+ yard season, but you have to be able to catch the ball a lot too, because that is one thing in common in the last couple of guys who won the award.
That's completely correct. You look at the attack that Saquon Barkley was able to put on the league in 2018. It was pretty insane. 16 games, 1,307 rushing yards, also 91 receptions for 721 yards and 4 touchdowns. Just doing some quick math, that's over 2,000 all-purpose yards for Saquon Barkley in 2018. And then 2017, Alvin Kamara, 728 yards, rushing 8 touchdowns, a ridiculous 6.1 yards per carry. That's absolutely insane. And also, again, 81 receptions on 100 targets for 826 yards and 5 touchdowns. So we're talking about guys that are not only, rushing the football with great effectiveness, but catching the ball and being very, very effective in doing that. And I guess if you're looking at, some of the silver linings or the saving graces for Omarion Hampton, at least his receiving production has kind of received an uptick every single year in college football. Went from 6 receptions to 29 to 38. So that's going to have to take a gigantic step up if he's going to want to put up the type of stat line that it's going to require for him to make a serious case to win Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, and I think team success will have a lot to do with it too, right? I mean, being a great rookie on a bad team, it's always going to be harder. I think if you're looking for a season that didn't go crazy receiving-wise, you go back to Todd Gurley, which was in 2015, so you're literally talking about a decade ago. 1,106 rushing yards, only 188 receiving yards, so 1,294 total yards or yards from scrimmage.
In 13 games.
In 13 games as well. But yeah, I mean, when you're looking at this, it's double-digit touchdowns that you need total, right? It's over 10, for the most part, over 1,000 yards, unless you just have a ridiculous receiving season like Alvin Kamara did, right? But this is the kind of season he would have to have, and it still hasn't been done since 2018. So he would have to put up probably a 1,500 to 2,000 yard season with 10+ touchdowns as far as total yards go. But if that does happen, David, it would mean a transformation of the Chargers running game and that actually finding glory for the first time in Justin Herbert's career, which is the vision that this offense wants to be. And if you're guaranteeing me that right now, I absolutely believe the Chargers will be contending for the AFC West crown.
Yeah, I mean, running the football effectively makes everything so much easier on the offensive side. You're in shorter down and distance situations. You're able to close out football games. You're able to win more football games. You look at it every single year. You look at the playoff teams that make it, they have a very strong and effective rushing attack. If this is the type of season Omarion Hampton is able to provide in his rookie year, the Chargers absolutely will be in contention for the AFC West crown, because Justin Herbert's already deadly with the arm. Imagine how much worse it's going to be for defenses when they have to really put up with a rushing attack that can run all over them.
Yeah, and just being multifaceted, and it's more about just consistency, honestly, right? Because if you look at the raw numbers last year, they're not great, but it didn't tell the story of kind of how bad and inconsistent this rushing game was, where really it had 4 or 5 games of a boom, and then the rest of it was just completely subpar. And that is what this team has to get rid of, because if you're saying great quarterback, strong run game, good defense, you know what that equals? A lot of wins, right? Playoffs for sure, but that's just the way, that is the best way that you can consistently win games in the NFL. And I mean, having a great quarterback that going into the season is great, and then adding an offensive rookie of the year season from Omarion Hampton, even if it seems unlikely, that would put them absolutely in contention for the AFC West. Because I don't know if I necessarily believe that they're there right now as far as, them being ready to take on the Chiefs. We'll have to wait until closer to the season when we make that determination. But they haven't beat him since 2021 with Patrick Mahomes. So there is a gap there. Have the Chargers bridged it? Another great nugget from that, David, me and you were talking about. The Chiefs 11-0 in one-score games last season. Yes, they have a quarterback who's the best to do that in one-score games ever, but that has to regress to the mean to some extent. So maybe there is a better chance that the Chargers can at least challenge that this year. If Omarion Hampton does that, I think they will. But that wasn't the only nugget we got from Benjamin Solak. He also bold predicted that either Justin Herbert or Kyler Murray will win their first playoff game in 2025, and we're going to tell you why Justin Herbert is the more likely one and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, I need to tell you guys about FanDuel because the NBA playoffs are in full swing and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action, and FanDuel makes it super easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big, and the NBA playoffs are heating up, especially with tonight being a huge game with the Knicks fighting for their playoff lives against the Pacers. They're currently 4-point favorites tonight, but you also love the prop bets that you can get with FanDuel. One of the ones I like is sprinkling on a couple of first basket scorers, and for this game, you go with Jalen Brunson at plus 380 is the most likely, or you can go with the Pacer Pascal Siakam at plus 700 to get the first basket. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. David, we have more to get into here, including another bold prediction from our guy Benjamin Solak from ESPN, who not only predicted that Omarion Hampton will be the Rookie of the Year for the offensive players in the NFL in 2025, he also predicted that either Justin Herbert or Kyler Murray will get their first playoff win in 2025, and this is what he had to say about it. Cardinals QB Kyler Murray has 82 career starts without a playoff win, which feels like a lot, but is only tied for 29th out of all quarterbacks since 1950. Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert is just behind him with 79. One of the two will get their first postseason win this season. Maybe both. Okay, probably just one. If there can only be one, David, it begs the question, which of these players is most likely to get their first playoff win in 2025? I think we know, but who do you think that is?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's the player who's in the best situation all around. And to me now, I can confidently say that that's Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert now, to me, I feel like has the weapons that he needs to have success from a pass catching standpoint. Also, from a running game standpoint, I feel like they have Omarion Hampton. They got Najee Harris. They bring in Mekhi Becton to kind of help with that, give them a couple of road graders on that right side of the offensive line. And then you have the coach who, I mean, to me, it's head and shoulders. Jim Harbaugh is the better option there with the better pedigree, with, just the track record of success. So when you look at all of those, and then, oh, by the way, they were a playoff team last year. So the Chargers, I think, are in much better position for Justin Herbert now, having been last year, being able to correct most of those deficiencies and then be able to run it back and get the desired result, which is obviously a win in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think an important kind of distinction here, or at least an important reason why I believe it's Justin Herbert, is he's the better quarterback. It's not the whole part of it, right? But he's the better player, and that is an important part. But I would say that maybe Kyler Murray's closer to Justin Herbert than maybe the consensus would think, and he's been banged up in several seasons too. But that is another thing, if you're having this conversation, that you have to take into account. I mean, Kyler Murray, before last year, where he played all 17 games from 2021 to 2023, he missed at least 3 games in all of those seasons, and he missed 18 games overall, which means that's an average of missing 6 games per season, basically, over a 3-year stretch. It's very hard for me to believe that you're going to win your first playoff game if you're missing that chunk of the season, right? Even if you did play all year last year. But also, if you're trying to, if this is a bet that you're making, you want to go with the guy you think is most likely to be there at the end of the season. And even with the litany of injuries that Justin Herbert has had over the last 3 years, his toughness is a factor there. And also, he has only missed 4 career games due to injury, and it all came in one terrible, awful season. So I think you take that into account. Also, just, more yards, better yards per attempt, better passer rating, more touchdowns, lower interception percentage in his career, and also last season than Kyler Murray. And when you're talking about yards and touchdowns, things like that, he's also played 3 less games than Kyler Murray has. And also, they had the better offensive trio to work with last season, and Justin Herbert still had a better year. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. wasn't Ladd McConkey, but the combination of him, Trey McBride, who's one of the best tight ends in the league, and James Conner, who's arguably a top 10 running back, you would take that over Ladd McConkey, J.K. Dobbins, and Will Dissly from last season. So I would say that he already had the better, offensive trio, and he still wasn't able to put up, even in 17 games, the numbers that Justin Herbert did in a year where he threw the ball much less than we've seen him in years past. But I do think the roster is a big part of that as well, because you're talking about a Chargers roster, David, that won 11 games, and a Cardinals roster that really faltered down the stretch and lost 5 of their last 7 games. Yeah, they might be better, but also part of this is I need to know this team's going to make the playoffs. And even though the Chargers have a tougher division to go up against, I think I'm more confident that they will be able to make that run.
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers are definitely going to be tested this year for sure. I mean, they have, 9 games against playoff teams on their schedule. So we're going to really find out if they are for real. But the Chargers defense was fantastic last year, and they didn't really drop off too much. They didn't lose too many pieces of that defense that contributed to that success. If anything, I feel like they added a little bit more depth to that group. And then on offense is where the biggest changes were made, right? They were able to add several pass catchers that I think are going to make an impact with Trey Harris and Tyler Conklin, Aronde Gadsden, KLS, several guys. Mike Williams coming back into the fold. We already know what that chemistry looks like for Justin Herbert and him. So I just think from that perspective, the offensive line getting better, they added quality depth to, I think, pretty much almost every position group. So just looking at it from, which team is better and in better position, I think the Chargers are definitely ascending, while the Cardinals are trying to kind of find where their footing is. And Kyler Murray obviously is a big part of that.
He is a big part of that. And the other thing is you're talking about a head coach in Jonathan Gannon, who I believe has never been to the playoffs. So I think that also is a big part of it too. And I do think that when you're looking at the rosters, yeah, I think the Chargers roster is better than the Cardinals, who are starting from a lower point and made some solid additions, and we'll see what happens. But I think if we were talking about the Chargers, though, there's just a lot that goes into it, right? And them going to win a playoff game, which we've talked about in the entire offseason. But if you're talking about which one's more likely, I think it has to be the Chargers. And I know the Cardinals beat the Chargers last year, and one of the flukier games I've ever seen.
Very much so. That was a weird football game.
Chargers settled for 5 field goals in that game, which is not the Cardinals' fault, right? The Chargers didn't do it there. You had the weird Josh Palmer play where he goes down. You have the Brendan Rice getting yelled at. But most importantly, you have Jalen Reagor fumbling into the end zone for a touchback. And also, that's 7 points right there taken off the board. And then you also have Tier Tart, who intercepts Kyler Murray deep in enemy territory and then fumbles it away back to them. That's at least probably a 10-point swing you're talking about minimum. Right there. Yeah. With the Chargers, and Justin Herbert specifically outplaying Kyler Murray by quite a bit in that game. But I do think there are definitely some things, David, just as far as the Chargers and exercising their demons, where, yes, I do think that Justin Herbert might be more likely to win a playoff game than Kyler Murray, but we know that there's a couple of things this team has to do for them to get over the hump and get Justin Herbert his first playoff win.
Absolutely. I think 3 things for me off the top of my head that I feel like Justin Herbert and the Chargers absolutely have to do better in order to secure that first win is Justin Herbert needs to run more. I feel like the threat of him running the football absolutely has to be there. It puts stresses on defenses, and he can do it. He's very, very good at it. He's very athletic. So when he sees those opportunities, he's got to take it. Obviously, they need to get a lot more production and a lot more efficiency and consistency from the running game. That has to be a factor this year. Greg Roman can't have another year of not having his kind of patented top 10 rushing attack. And then he needs his receivers to beat man coverage. That's why you go out and you get a Trey Harris in the second round, and you get Mike Williams who can go up and get the football. These are receivers that can do that, and they have skill sets that allow them to do that. Those are just a couple of things in my mind that Justin Herbert and the Chargers have to do if they want to get that first playoff win for him.
Think you're totally right about the weapons and the additions that they made have to show up, right? Like that they have to make a meaningful impact. Using 4 of your top 6 picks in the draft on offense have to add more firepower because you were outmatched in that final game of the season. But David, let's be honest. What really has to happen is Justin Herbert has to show up and be that guy in that game when that game comes around. Period. End of story. Yeah. He not only has to win the game, he has to be the reason that they win the game. And that is the only thing that's going to shut anyone up even for a fraction of a second, because once you do that, then you start getting held to the standard that guys that, are thought that are better than him, the Josh Allens and Lamar Jacksons, the MVPs that are out there. Yeah. What the scrutiny is they're under, right? Because they're not under win a playoff game anymore. Once you do that, the goalpost will move, and it's about making a deep playoff run. It's about going to the Super Bowl, and at the end of the day, winning championships. But it starts with Justin Herbert showing up in the playoffs and being he can't be the reason they lose, but more than that, he has to be the reason that they win. He can't just be a bystander. He can't be a passenger in a playoff win. He has to go out there and show up and be as good as we know he is and the quarterback that he was for the entire offseason before it all blew up. Now, why did he blow up? Was the team so outmatched he felt like he had to do too much? Yeah, that's probably part of it too. But it doesn't matter. There's no more excuses. He has to show up and be that guy. And at least now it feels like he has a playoff caliber roster, or potentially the depth and the top end talent to do that. But we do have more to get into today because we still have to talk about one more nugget we got from Benjamin Solak, and it's why all eyes could be on Daiyan Henley, who is looking to make a household name for himself in 2025, and why he believes that's going to happen, and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. David, we still have more great stuff to get into today, but thank you to the everydayers out there as always. We always appreciate you guys, and make sure, if you want to get your question to us for tomorrow's show, because it is Fan Mail Friday, and we'll be putting posts out at Locked On LAC on Twitter, on Instagram at Locked On Chargers, or you can call into the voicemail line at 323-524-7924 and give us your 30-second Chargers question for tomorrow, because we want to know what you guys want to hear about, and we love you guys having the direction of where the show goes. But thank you as always for making us your first listen. If you need a second listen, make sure to check out the Locked On NFL Scouting Show with Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino, as they give you all of the best up-to-date news after the draft to make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast from. David, one more nugget from Benjamin Solak, because one of the first things he had on his 100 things to watch for 100 days away from the NFL season was that Daiyan Henley is a name to watch this season, and the premise is him becoming a household name. He says the Chargers had a starting linebacker spot up for grabs in 2024 with after Kenneth Murray Jr. signed with the Titans in free agency. Rookie Junior Colson was expected to fill it. He was the Michigan man, after all, following his coach Jim Harbaugh and defensive coordinator Jesse Minter to the big leagues. Instead, it was Henley, the 2023 third-rounder, who plays much bigger than his 6'1", 230-pound frame would suggest. Henley has the instincts, quickness, and tackling ability to influence the game sideline to sideline, something many linebackers aspire to do, but few can. He got 18 All-Pro votes in 2024 and deserved more. David, that is high praise, something that we as Chargers fans have been kind of yelling from the rooftops, but it's nice to see someone else appreciating what Daiyan Henley was able to do, and also seeing, like we are, hey man, this dude's knocking on the door of an All-Pro trip very, very soon.
He definitely is. He kind of awakened the rest of the league to what his skill set was last year after putting up 147 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, and a 72.9 passer rating allowed in coverage, just showing you that he can affect the game running, get in the running games, limiting the rushing attack, and, he can really be a weapon in the passing game against receivers and, your tight ends or running backs. He can really be that guy that can cover them and lock them down. Him and Derwin James just completely shut down opposing tight ends last year. It was almost not fair how good they were against them. And oh, by the way, he did all of this while playing most of the season with a torn labrum in his shoulder in, 3 or 4 games into the season, and elected to just tough it out and continue to be there and play for his team and for his teammates. Like, it's not just going to show you the production on the field, but it shows you the heart of the man. And I think all of those ingredients, those elements, to me, scream a player that is definitely on the verge of superstardom.
Absolutely, especially when you hear, his coach Navarro Bowman, who's seen what it takes to do that at this level and has been an all-pro player, to rave about his leadership and the expectations they have for him and how he's not done yet, and he thinks he can be even better after dealing with that torn labrum. But I do think that is the part that really stands out here, just the ability to do both. A lot of players are specialists at that position now. You usually have smaller guys who can cover, or bigger guys who are better on first and second down to stop the run. There's not many that can do it all, which is what stands out about his game. And also the ability to potentially be maybe the best coverage linebacker in the NFL, which I think Navarro Bowman probably was at one point too. So to see that, I mean, it wouldn't be surprising to me at all for him to get 3 or 4 interceptions this year. Like, he was close to at least 3 last year with the one that he got. But the other part of it is, last year, only 6 players had more All-Pro votes total than Daiyan Henley did. He was tied with Levante David. 6 linebackers were named to the first and second team All-Pro. There was 3 on the first and 3 on the second. That means he was the next guy there. So it's not crazy to think even a small leap for him would already put that in the conversation. And maybe he should have even been in that conversation more last season, as Benjamin Solak's saying there. But I do think the one place, David, where you would say, hey, well, where can he improve? If he's good against the run and he's great in coverage, where does the improvement come from? And I think it is as a pass rusher, because he did have the third lowest pass rush win percentage out of 32 linebackers with at least 65 pass rushing snaps last year. That is a clear place, David, where we've seen him have a 4-sack season in college. We know the ability is in there, and also shoulders are important for pass rushing, I would say. But that is the one kind of place where, man, if he can improve that part of his game, he will absolutely be an all-pro in 2025.
Yep, 13 pressures, 1 sack. I think we can all remember Daiyan Henley being pretty much fingertips away from dragging Patrick Mahomes down and basically securing a victory for the Chargers, and it just didn't happen. And so if he's able to just finish those plays right there, that's the difference between the season he had last year and an all-pro season, which I think we can all envision him having very, very soon.
Absolutely. Maybe you learned something from Denzel Perryman, because Denzel last year was really good as a blitzer. 6 pressures on only 19 pass rushing snaps, which is just...
that's effective.
And that's almost a 33% pressure rate. But, the Chargers pass rush also needs as many good options as possible. So, also, if he can make that leap, that would be huge for them as far as the pass rush goes and his individual game. But, David, I would make the argument that it's actually more important for Junior Colson to make that leap in 2025 than it is for Daiyan Henley.
Yeah, dealt with injuries kind of in the offseason. He had
the whole year, right?
Appendectomy, had the hamstring injury that put him on IR during the season. He just never really got out of the box. And also, as we found out, the speed of the game at the NFL level was a little bit too much for Junior Colson. But I still am a big believer in his skill set, and I feel like, with, kind of looking at his scouting report, strong tackler, does a good job getting off of blocks, has athleticism to cover running backs and tight ends, and he scrapes down the line of scrimmage very effectively. These are, some of the notes I had when the Chargers drafted Junior Colson. And I think, everything that we're hearing is that he's taking it very, very seriously, that he's healthy, that they want to keep him on the field, and that things are starting to slow down a little bit for him. And if that's the case, if he is able to really figure this out, and we see the player we saw in college transition to the NFL level, then we're talking about the Chargers having 2 of the better young athletic linebackers in the NFL.
Absolutely, which I think would be huge. Me and you talked about it. Like, if Daiyan Henley didn't improve at all, he'd still be really good, right? Even if he didn't take that next step, you would take exactly what you got from him last season. Obviously, I think he'll be better, but you would take that. Now, if Daiyan Henley takes another step and becomes an all-pro linebacker, but Junior Colson's still playing very poorly, that's going to have much worse effects on your defense. Now, the Chargers do have the Chargers do have contingency plans at linebacker. You could bring in a Troy Dye. You could bring in a Denzel Perryman, who can both play and play at an adequate level. But I think the floor of the defense, the ceiling of the defense, gets a lot higher in both regards if Junior Colson can make that leap, and I just think that if Junior Colson's still playing poorly, you have other guys that could take that step, but I think short-term and long-term, it hurts you defensively, because the best version of Junior Colson next to Daiyan Henley is the best version of this defense. And if you want to think of the ways that a Chargers defense who did lose Joey Bosa, who did lose Poona Ford from last season, can still be better and find those improvements from what was the best scoring defense in the league last year, that's one kind of glaring place you could look at and say, well, man, if Junior Colson takes a leap and Daiyan Henley's still playing at a borderline all-pro level, what does that do for this defense? And I think that is the scary thing for other teams to think about. And the exciting thing, but kind of nervous thing that Chargers fans are feeling going into the season, because it never clicked with Kenneth Murray. It still hasn't. Even after he signed with another team and got traded to another team, it still hasn't clicked for him. The NFL, the NCAA game doesn't always translate to the NFL level. I think Junior Colson has a lot to show still, right? And barely got to show anything last year. And it might not ever click, but I think there's still plenty of reason to think that it will. And I think if he can do that, man, this defense at the second level, especially when you're talking about Junior Colson and Daiyan Henley standing in front of Derwin James and an Elijah Moore and what they have on the back end, that's something that you feel like, okay, they can actually repeat as one of the top defenses in the NFL in 2025. And if they can do that with the improvements they made on offense, man, that's a team that you don't want to see in the playoffs. That's a team that you don't want to see in the playoffs. But that's going to wrap things up for today's show. The good news is you guys can get your input on tomorrow's show because it is Fan Mail Friday. So once again, if you guys want to get your questions on the show, hit us up on Twitter at LockedOnLAC, on Instagram at LockedOnChargers, or even hit up our Facebook page on Locked On Chargers as well. You can also hit us up in the YouTube comments, or we'll put a post out on YouTube as well. But you could also call into the voicemail line and get your voice on the show. Give us a 30-second Chargers question at 323-524-7924. And if you call in with a voicemail, your chances go up of getting your question on the show. But that's wrapping up what's been a very good week. We're excited to be back with you guys tomorrow with the latest news and also Fan Mail Friday. But until then, guys, take it easy and go Bolts.